something now about that?
Yes. You are Irish?
I'm Irish, yes, Scotch Irish.
Okay.
My mother's family was Irish, and strangely, my father's family was Irish. And they both came here about in the 1700s, different directions, and somehow they found each other in Houston, Texas. But they're both have a lot of strong Irish background to them, especially my mother's family.
And you went back to Ireland at some point?
I've been back 3 times,
Yeah.
Not long enough. I'd like to go back sometime when I can spend some extended time there.
What did you learn about
Well, most of what I learned about the way the Irish looked at things and everything was through my mother. And my mother's family is from northern Mississippi. And the whole area there is it's very Scotch-Irish. Just a lot of their culture, a lot of their stuff and everything else comes from that Irish background. And so, a lot of what my mother would tell me about when she was growing up in Mississippi, and about all the different ways and things that they would look at things and how different it was for those country folk. A lot of them, she said, well, it was being country, but in a sense it was being a little bit more true to what their heritage was. And I know, particularly in the way that they handled death. She always told me the story about when she was growing up, that when someone died, that what they would do is they would, I suppose they would take the body to the funeral home to have it embalmed, but then they would take it immediately and bring it back to the person's home, and they would take the kitchen table and put the body on the kitchen table. And that for the 3 days before the individual was buried, it was basically a constant gathering of all these relatives. Some of them would have to come in from far away, and they would wait for them. And then my mother said she would remember the kids would be stacked in all different directions and sleeping on the beds in one way or the other, and kids, parents sleeping on the floor on a pallet, which she called it. She always talked about pallets, but that the individual was there laying on the kitchen table, and that the people would come in and do what they call pay their last respects. They would come in and they would talk to everyone around them, and they would stand there beside them, and they would tell stories, and they would of course cry and weeping, just crying about telling the stories and about the different things about the person that's right there. And they were just packed together. And my mother would say that they would bring food, and the primary reason people would bring food is because, of course, obviously the body's in the kitchen, they're not going to be preparing anything, so they have to bring outside food in to feed all of these people that are there. And then she would say that in the beginning there would be a lot of crying and anger and whatever else, but then after a while someone would say, well, you remember when this happened? And then someone would laugh. And then they say, oh, you remember when this happened? And then they would laugh again, and then pretty soon they would start telling funny stories about the person, and they would start to laugh. And it's not as if the sting of death was being completely removed, but it was as if through their laughter and through their tears and through their anger and their just furiousness, that it would transform some of the feelings and things that they had inside them, so that they would be able to deal with the death.